Welcome to VetLine, your gathering place for veteran culture, answering your VA questions. With your hosts, the Nate Sean Don and your Uncle Whit.
Welcome to VetLine. I am the Nate Sean Don, and with me is your Uncle Whit. Uncle Whit, what are we talking about today, man?
I think we're talking about stereotypes, veteran stereotypes, not types of veteran stereos, but the stereotypes that we encounter after we leave the service. What do we see? What kinds of information are present constantly put in our face, and how we interpret that, and how we either reinforce or try to stray away from the stereotypes of veteran, post-war, what have you. How does that sound?
It sounds pretty good. I think this is kind of an important topic because there have been, I feel like I've had plenty of awkward moments when somebody wants to discuss my military service with me. There's always those dead silences and the deep, deep sighs.
Yeah, and thank you for your service. I really want to talk about that a little bit. Not that I don't appreciate thank you for your service, but thank you for your service is complicated, and it brings with it a lot of different feelings. So, we can open that up a little bit.
Absolutely. So I feel like it's kind of difficult to talk about things like that in that kind of setting, but also I want to discuss that experience with another person, but I can't exactly do that with another civilian person, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Right.
So I feel like right now we're going to discuss some things that I think everybody probably has run into, and let them know that they can find us on Facebook and Google Plus and Twitter, and you let us know. Let us know if you've ever run into situations like this, just kind of dead space in conversations.
Yeah, if you are a civilian or you never served in the military, how do you talk to those service members and veterans that have served, and kind of, I don't want to say be gentle, but just be aware and like the kind of things that veterans are going to interpret as cliched or disingenuous.
Right.
They happen, and I don't know. It arouses a lot of feelings for that.
And we're going to create the social lube of sorts.
Yeah. So, grease up the rod for social lubricant to penetrate this topic. So. And again, I don't want to alienate our listeners that might be civilian, but at the same time, just to kind of, I guess, touch on that, I personally like to reinforce the stereotype. I like to freak out my civilian counterparts at any given moment because I think it's important.
Yes. Respect.
Well, respect, or just I don't know, crazy.
Go a little cross-eyed, shake a little bit.
That's right. Let's pull a Walter on him. Like, am I the only one around here that gives a shit about the rules? I like that.
So, also, I think this would be a good topic because I like to use other people's models sometimes, especially in communication. I feel like I'm naturally a social awkward person, but a lot of times I find strategies to discuss things and how to socialize better by watching and hearing other people kind of break it down. So maybe we can do a little bit of that. Maybe not. Maybe somebody has a little bit of input. I would love to hear some input on how to handle these situations better.
I would too.
Handle these situations. Man, that would be great.
If anybody has a question and they could shoot it our way, or just a statement or anything we can dissect and open up, we would love to hear it. So stereotypes, man.
Let's talk about that one. Let's talk about the one that kind of comes to the surface all the time, and that's it happens every single time a veteran comes in contact with a non-veteran, and the topic of their service comes up, and that is that kind of really somber look. They put out their hand and they want to give you a shake, and they say, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. And I feel like that is a very automatic response to something that maybe they want to communicate that they're not exactly getting. Uncle Whit, what do you think about that?
I think it's an automatic response for patriots, for those that love America, and not that it isn't appreciated. The other response that I've encountered is, let's say, like when I went back to school, I was much older than a lot of the folks that were attending school, and as an English major, I would go to these literature classes, and we'd be reading about sometimes war topics, sometimes not, but anyways, and my service would come up, and afterwards, if I'm like smoking a cigarette out on the curb during a break, someone would say, "Oh, you were in the service. Did you deploy?" Oh yeah, I did. So what was that like, man?
Right.
It was cool.
Well, I'll summarize it.
And when that kind of thing would pop up, that's when I knew that I was talking to somebody that had no real consideration in any form of reality. There was no respect. There was just this peripheral connection with media proxies about deployments in the military and all that. I mean, someone that would come at me like that, I would think, wow, this person has no freaking clue about anything. So I, for my own entertainment, I would reinforce everything that they thought and try to freak them out as much as possible, and be really enthusiastic about freaking them out, just because I'm weird like that. But
just to create the.
What about you? I mean, what are some of the things you encountered when?
Well, like that was a good one. Is always oh, did you see anything? Another one I got is have you seen did you see anything crazy?
Yeah.
Did you see anything crazy? It's a weird question for somebody to ask, like right off the bat. Like, yes, I will spill very sensitive items that has been advertised in the news as being, very sensitive to these individuals, but I'll spill it to you, complete stranger, because you asked.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
It's very bold. It's a very bold statement. But what's the intent? I think is now as an adult. What is the intent of this? Is it some sort of cordial, automatic, kind of like saying please and thank you point of grace? Does that make sense?
Right.
Like a politeness or...
Maybe.
Yeah. Is that what it is? Do we need to just teach them a different way? Because essentially when they say thank you for serving, they're saying thank you for volunteering. Or thank you for having the balls/ovaries to, do something because essentially we are just volunteering for a job that is specifically centered on facilitating war and
right.
Home defense.
And I've always taken pride in my job. I don't know about you, but
right. Always not to.
But when I joined the service, I was living in a kind of college town. I really wasn't going anywhere with my life, but I didn't have any trust in governments or organizations. I mean, I'm an Oregonian. I kind of came at things with I don't want to say leftist and admit to any kind of fucking labels, but I mean, I definitely wasn't enthused about the war when it kicked off. I remember after 9/11, thinking, wow, this is going to set off an entire generation defined by this moment. Right. And it did, and it still does. But after after I couldn't make it as a civilian, I guess, in my youth, joining the service gave me a sense of purpose, even if I didn't always agree with it. I mean, I was learning constantly. I was surrounded by like-minded young guys. Sometimes their politics didn't agree with mine, but we were all in it together. And as you get to your units and you end up deploying and stuff like that, you develop a sense of ownership for the kind of work that you do. So of course you want to do it better. It brings to mind some of the discussions that the media has been having about the movie American Sniper and Chris Kyle, and I think that's a really good time to bring that up. Is that Chris Kyle was unapologetic for the work that he did, and I don't think that he should be apologetic. Mm-hmm. His attitude seemed to be more or less, if you want answers, if you want apologies, go to the people that asked me to do this job. Mm-hmm. But the kind of work that he did, maybe there's some glorification of killing people, but in killing people, he saved more lives that were more important to him than the people he was killing. So
absolutely,
I'm cool with that. I could dig on that, because serving next to one guy on your right, one guy on your left, those lives are way more important to me. Mm. And that's the bitch of being in the service. You're doing a job, and the more you get to know your coworkers or your fellow brothers and sisters, what have you, the more you care about them.
Right. It always comes down to the question, I think, in this particular situation, is when it comes down to who are you serving? Because you're not really serving the federal government. That's not what drives what motivates me every day. What is driving me is the small unit leadership that I'm experiencing at the time. It's the camaraderie that I have with those people next to me. That's why I'm serving and who I'm serving. So, contrary to, I think, a lot of contemporary civilian culture would think, is you're serving the mission wholeheartedly. You're kind of this mechanical machine of American defense. Rather, we're more of a tribal machine of a family of sorts, of relative connectedness to each other. That's really what fuels us and drives us and motivates.
Well, it's certainly what drove me.
I guess particularly, I say us, but I guess for me in particular is, I say us because I feel like I'm speaking for some people, but I guess I'm not. I'm speaking for myself.
Yeah.
I'm an asshole.
But I agree with you. So. Yeah. When you're serving next to people and you know that your job is to deliver or support, however that is, support a violent institution, if you have that in the back of your head, then serving the person to your right and your left becomes substantially more important. And I challenge any civilian to look for life-affirming, transformative experiences that they can have. Now, we can open up a debate about the virtue of war, which I'm welcome to, but for young people such as myself, when I joined, I didn't really have a lot of options, because I was failing in civilian life. I wasn't making money. I wasn't going to school. I was washing dishes in some backroom kitchens and various bars, and spending all my money on things that I shouldn't be spending my money on.
Right. Naval candies.
And I enjoyed getting away from that. I enjoyed signing myself over to an organization, a job essentially that I couldn't quit. And if I wanted to quit, then it would really affect my life later. So I had to prioritize. I had to put things into perspective, and I wanted to do a job better than anybody else. It motivated me, and it gave me a sense of direction and a sense of purpose. Now, as a hospital corpsman, my job was, medical, saving lives and all that. But any corpsman that's ever spent time,
look at this guy saving lives.
I mean, that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I got my chance, and let it be known that I saved Iraqi lives.
Right.
I'm not here to say that any crazy racist stuff. I guess I'm kind of painting myself in a rhetorical corner here, but I enjoyed my job. I did my job good, and when I got out, the kinds of things that
You there?
yeah.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, what was that?
That was a motorcycle.
Nice.
That was an asshole on a giant fucking Harley, dude. Of course.
Not every asshole on a Harley is an asshole, but
I apologize for that interruption there, guys. I'm sorry. Continue.
I'm over it.
Okay. But let's bring us back to. I did want to discuss the intent of when you're discussing this with people, them asking you these questions. Thank you, or stating these things. Thank you for serving. Did you see anything crazy? These kind of questions. What is the intent? You think it's curiosity? Is it some sort of they want to express their gratefulness?
Sometimes,
actions, you feel like you should say something?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, like I said before, the Patriots are going to say thank you for your service. The inquisitive types, not that they're not Patriots. I don't want to alienate anyone. But I think that most of the time when somebody asks, hard questions, having not those kinds of experiences, they're assuming a lot about their own knowledge of the kinds of things that service people do.
Right.
And that, I mean, like I said, it irritates me, and the only way that I've found to combat it is to reinforce everything that they think they know and hopefully freak them out a little bit. Right. Hopefully they leave going, golly, I don't always know who I'm talking to all the time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Maybe next time I can, either tone it down, and maybe sometimes I reinforce their what do you call it?
Preconceptions?
Yeah, preconceptions, and thinking that they know everything, which you can't. Simply put, you can't know what service people do unless you've done it. You don't know about the military unless you've done it. The only hope you have is through the media proxies, stories, books, movies, music, cultural rhetoric, everything that we're kind of doing right now.
Right. I've learned in my lifestyle is the best place to learn about all different cultures is the media. You don't get a skewed view at all.
No. Right? And of course, everybody that serves in the military has PTSD, and everybody that serves in the military is, has killed somebody or been deployed in combat. And I mean,
exactly.
That's what you get most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's another one. Maybe you could tell me if you experienced this situation. But when somebody did bring up, asked if I deployed, I said yes. He did something very interesting, and he put his hand on my shoulder, and he looked me in the eye. First of all, we're at the Deli Counter in Albertsons. So we're not like, this is not like a real conversation. Like, we were not in a bar. We didn't have any, like, a 15-minute conversation. He didn't buy me a drink, none of this. Yeah. We're at the Deli Counter. He just happens to step up 15 seconds before me and make a silly joke about meat. I don't remember exactly what it was. He made a meat joke, and we laughed together, and that kind of created this relationship. He's like, oh, did you serve? I live in a predominantly veteran area or military area. Oh, yes, I did. What did you do previously? I was a corpsman. Oh, I work on base, blah, 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 blah. He starts talking about it. Did you ever deploy? I said I did. And then he puts his hand on my shoulder, and he looks me tenderly in the eye, and he says, "Are you all right?"
What'd you say?
I don't know. I didn't know. I mean, I answered like, "Yeah, dude, I'm good." I didn't experience anything really crazy. I'm good. You know, it didn't. You know, one of those situations where it's a question that blindsides you so much you would never experience this type of brazen, just bold. This dude is bold. Like, he thought that this guy next to him at the Deli Counter. I was so sad being a veteran that not only am I messed up just because I'm a deployed veteran, I was so messed up. I would just talk to anybody about it. I was just dying to let anybody know. Are you all right? Yes, complete stranger. Thank you. I felt completely comfortable telling you everything about my combat experience. It was just one of those experiences that blindsided me so much.
Yeah.
So what would you do in that situation, Uncle Whit?
Well, what would I do? I would cross my eyes and be like, "Nah, man, I'm not all right. I got this twitch. It's been in my eye ever since I got back, man." You know.
Maybe
over the line, Smokey. You know.
What I should have done would been like, "Yeah, I'm fine," and then I just sniffed him a lot, and then looked him in the eyes. And then before we walked away, I said, before he got his meat, he gets his trout or whatever, he gets all wrapped up and thanks the guy. And as he walked away, I'll go, "He smelled like fear." That's all I'll say. And then I'll turn around and talk to the guy, and that's all I'll say now. That'll be our party.
I guess that's like our reaction, though. You know, when confronted with those kinds of things. I mean, people have an idea that they're being concerned, and by all means, be concerned. But you know, when they when they come at you really brazen, like you said, you know, want to talk about some of the most, you know, horrific or intense moments of your life right there at the fucking deli counter.
Right.
Hand on a shoulder and nod. Don't touch me, homie.
Right. I'm like a nice, like that kind of guy. I'll hug a stranger kind of person.
Yeah.
So it didn't really bother me so much. The hand on my shoulder thing. You know, when somebody it was very non-threatening.
Yeah, no.
But if he was going to say, like, I thought he was going to be, like, make another joke or something. But no, he wanted to analyze me psychologically, you know?
Right then and there.
Right there at the deli counter. They were providing steak, trout, salmon, psychoanalysis.
And you're welcome. America cares.
Right. I was psyched that Albertson's got a Starbucks in it, man.
Well, anyways. Have they donated to a local legion?
They have not.
Yeah, so screw them. We don't like them.
Not that I know.
You said their name.
But so how do we fight? Not fight, but there is a kind of an image of this current veteran, especially in this culture, with the kind of saturation of post-traumatic stress disorder in the media.
Yeah.
And how that's kind of come to the surface a lot.
Well, a lot of it,
veterans and such.
You know, if you think about history, though, a lot of that, it all makes sense. You know what I mean? When you're talking about societies and the social pendulum, the social pendulum always swings in opposite velocity from its source, right? And what are we coming from? We're coming from a generation of veterans who learned to not be proud of their service. You know, they came home to a society, we're talking Vietnam veterans, they came home to a society that rejected them, that didn't want or value their experiences because, you know, the engagement itself was deemed socially wrong at some point. You know, guys were spit on, guys were accused of horrible things. Without that compassion, that social compassion for for what they were asked to do or what they were told to do because there was a draft going on. I think that we're lucky. I mean, you know, we have the privilege to kind of, you know, tease our civilian counterparts about asking these questions and feeling a little bit put on the spot and all that kind of stuff. I will take that any day over being spit on, because if anyone spits on me, I mean, I'm going to break their nose.
How much of this though do you think is the wake of that kind of?
I think personally, I think it's entirely the wake of the way that Vietnam veterans were treated. I think
exactly. They see it as a mistake. They kind of see the mistake.
Right. The hyper-awareness is almost overcompensating for the grave mistakes that were made early on. Now, you know, we talked a lot about this in our first episodes and veteran, you know, sort of assimilation and what it's like, why things happen. I just think that that now we have a hyper-awareness. We have a hyper-cultural awareness about the kind of sacrifices that service people make, because in large part now it's all volunteer. You sign up voluntarily. You say, I want to join. I'm willing to do this. And everyone has their own reason for joining. But now this awareness is translating into a lot of media agencies and civilian populations just thinking that, oh yeah, I saw movies about this and that's some shit I can't comprehend, so I think I know about it. Well, you know, I've seen a lot of war movies, and you know, my time in a combat zone, you know, it wasn't anything like the movies. I mean, there's certain instances that are kind of, you know, you reevaluate through the lens of a movie that you might have seen, but I mean, there's day-to-day life, and you're not conscious of what you're doing when you're doing it the way that you are when you're watching a film. You know, what somebody's doing in a film, and what you can't comprehend about that. You know, the emotions that a film extracts, for example. You can't do that without having done it. And even when you do it, you don't think about it. You just do something, and then you think about it later.
It's like, hey, dude, I'm gonna go fight ISIS, dude. I'm gonna go fight ISIS right now in Iraq. I could do it, dude. I've been playing Call of Duty for like 6 years now, dude. I'm like a Call of Duty champion. CQB, no problem. I'm gonna do this ISIS thing. How do you think that's gonna go? Is that what you're talking about? This is kind of a romantic version.
Nah, not even that. Not like even the moto like side of it. More like wow, I just saw this movie and these guys do some crazy stuff that I can't wrap my mind around, and because I can't wrap my mind around it, I either choose to be kind of against it or really sympathetic towards it, and. In the case of your Deli friend, I think that was a case of, you know, overcompensation of sympathy. You know, that like, oh wow. And if he works on base, you know, I'm sure there's a connection. He hears a lot of stories. He sees a lot of people, and you know, his opinion of the average deployed veteran is that of like, oh wow, you're kind of broken now. You're kind of less of a person than maybe before you joined because you've been exposed to violence. What I want veterans to walk away from, what I try to emphasize in everything I do, is that I'm better because I did that. Do I always agree with everything that happened? No, I don't always. But because I dedicated myself to something that was much, much greater than myself, I learned a lot about societies, about individuals, and I am better for it.
Absolutely.
I am better for it.
Absolutely. I feel like there's a lot of overlooking of the idea of a lifestyle. A lot of times they see kind of the workings of it. They see the media showing the gears of how movements are done. You know, they give you a quick quip of a person with a rifle and pointing in a general ambivalent direction in camouflage, and that's, it displays our jobs as warriors essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But then now we know we're kind of saturated with the idea that violence is damaging or psychologically. Nobody can really come out. I don't know where I'm getting with this.
I'll follow up. I'll say that violence is an inherent part of being a human being. Anything that exists socially, culturally, when people get together and they decide to do things together, other things have to die. That's an inherent fact. And I would challenge anybody to give to me how that is, impossible. Now, of course, your folks out there in like Tibet and all that kind of stuff, maybe they found a way to, exist in harmony with nature and togetherness and all that kind of stuff. Let's get there. Let's work on that. But the world is not there. The neighbor next to you isn't there. And anyways, I'm soapboxing out here. I'm going to step down. But
right. You're already so
but
tall.
humans, if we were studied by some other, by another human that was just like, what do humans do? It's like, man, crazy violent. They try to dominate. They try to extract resources to further their own ends, and and that's all. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying it's right. Just that you have to have a dedicated group of people that say, I'm willing to exercise a certain amount of authority and or violence over another group in order to achieve, let's say, the American goal, whatever that happens to be. There's a lot of movers and shakers doing things that I don't understand. I put my faith in them by deciding to serve for them, but I'm not going to apologize for it, even if history says you're wrong.
I guess just short of having a march or something, what is your opinion on how a person could maybe communicate this type of, I guess I wouldn't even say averageness, is their ability to be just another person in society, rather than being a damaged veteran having to carry this image with them? How could they try to express more of a more, again, I said average is lack of a better word, average image?
I'd say don't promote yourself as average. If you're a veteran, you're not average.
Okay.
Even if you were serving chow, or you were shore duty or anything like that, you're not average.
Mm-hmm.
You stand out. Take the power back. The way that you do that is being involved in your community and asserting the lessons and the tools that you gain while you were in the service, to take ownership and not take control. We live in a democratic society. You're never going to control every aspect of anything. Even in your marriage, you can't control everything that happens. Lose your idea of control, because that's futile. That's stupid. But take ownership. Take charge of your life. Take charge of your career. Take charge of the way that people see you, and own it. Mm-hmm. Wear it like a bandana or something. I don't know. That's your colors, man. and your attitudes, your motivations, and your drive. I mean, I bring a little bit of a kind of violent sense to the way that I get good at my job. I work and I work and I work, and then at some point I'm like, hell yeah, I'm good at my job.
Right.
And
I guess there are positive stereotypes that we could cling to. The only problem being that stereotypes, like any other stereotype, kind of eliminates a lot of options in other people's minds. But those positive stereotypes being things like the ability to lead, the ability to follow directions, the ability. Does that make it
the
communicate
ability,
well? All these other like soft skills that you develop by having a
strength.
common mission.
Strength is the bottom line for all, I mean, biological species. You want to be strong. And what I'm saying is that all veterans, no matter what they did, they took an extra step that their civilian counterparts did not, and they gained strength, whether or not they realize it, whether or not they're really screwed up by PTSD and combat stuff. Like you can certainly spend too much time in combat, that's the thing. But I mean, you can still be a warrior. You can still take the lessons that you learn and the hardships you might have endured and translate those into something else that is equally productive in a different field. You gotta kung fu your way out of your own brain. Everything, I feel like societies are based on ingenuity, military might, and the people that make up a culture. And right now we live in America. We live in a post 9/11 America. The last decade plus has been war and violence and fighting things. Well, if you have fought, if you have been a part of the non-consumerist, non-selfish, non just take, you were giving at some point to that objective, whether or not history finds it to be right or wrong, you have gained strength, and you can take your strength and you can apply the lessons that you've learned to create personal success and hopefully greater cultural success.
I'm glad you brought up the individuals who weren't particularly like what you would call like frontline combat individuals, because sometimes when I feel these questions are asked, stuff like this, like did you deploy, did you see combat, questions like this, they almost isolate individuals who maybe they served during the 90s. They had an honorable service. They essentially, their job, what they did is they trained and they developed tactics for what we would use in wartime, but you know what, they won't get that kind of respect because, or the same kind of...
Right. There wasn't a war going on.
Right, because there wasn't a war going on. They didn't get there. So somehow they're...
Well, there was a war in the 90s, and let's be
fair. But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I do. I think our listeners will forgive us for that. There was a war going on, but like in the sort of predominant peacetime, eras. Yeah. Through late 70s, through some of the 80s, and yeah, there was other things going on, South America, whatever, and then leading up to the Gulf War, the first Gulf War. What my point is, and to answer your question, is that you still volunteered. You signed essentially your life over to something bigger than you, and let history write out how virtuous that was. Let history do that. But right now, if you're listening to this and you're wondering about what your time in service meant, if you signed the dotted line and you took the oath, you went through a very transformative process, and you're better off for it.
Right.
That's my thing.
Right. You finished a commitment, whether that was 20 years or 4 years. You finished.
And if a war had broke out, you could have been asked to go to it. So,
absolutely.
Point is that you made that step, and you're greater connected. And there's things that happen while you're in, whether it's peacetime, whether it's wartime, and you're not in a war zone. You learn things, and hopefully they make you stronger. You're presented with challenges that make you stronger. So the way that you overcome those stereotypes, in my opinion, humble as it may be, you own it. You own it 100%, and you know if
Right. Wear them like shoes, right?
mm-hmm. Wear them like
Steel-toe
your shoes, boots, like your bets.
Put them between the cracks.
Yeah.
I guess one more thing I wanted to discuss. You brought up the American Sniper movie, and there is a common discrepancy in the media that I think we should discuss as well, and that is this common. It's. I don't feel. You can tell me what you think about this, and I'm only bringing this up because I feel like it needs to be illuminated. Like somebody should bring it up to the surface so we could discuss it, and that is that few women and few minorities ever displayed in the media as veterans or military people. Would you agree?
I would agree.
This is a really soft subject, and I just wanted to bring it up for a second. And the reason why is I would like, just like those individuals who maybe didn't experience any combat, maybe worked logistics or something, and would feel inadequate, I feel oftentimes these individuals feel inadequate or misrepresented in the media as well.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, my experience in the military was that of learning about other cultures, learning about other races, other experiences, and how they create meaning.
Exactly. What I did learn probably the most predominantly about other cultures, and that was the fact that I didn't know fucking anything, dude. I didn't know anything about anybody. And it blew my mind. Every new person and every new culture I come into contact with, it was like, you do what? You do how? This is what you believe? It would just blow my mind. Just, again, remind me how small I was.
Right.
That's a good thing to own. I'll own that shit.
Yeah, I can't I can't open that up at all. I just agree with you that it's
so I guess
gross misrepresentation.
Right. I guess I wanted to bring it up. Like, I hope in some really horrible way, and I would like to apologize to everybody, but I don't see anybody else doing it, is that we are in some odd, in our own narcissistic universes, being somewhat of representatives in a weird way.
No, I mean,
so
cool.
I wanted to bring this up, so it would be a talking point amongst veteran women, maybe amongst veteran minorities, to create something, make something that would represent you and represent your veteran experience accurately.
Well, and start the conversation, man.
Exactly.
That's a conversation that here we're talking about veterans in general, but everything that you bring as a volunteer to the military, it's informed by race, gender, religion, all these different sociocultural things. How has the military impacted your experience in conjunction with those things?
Absolutely.
Like what? Golly, don't want to alienate any grunts out there or anything like that, but we all serve next to LGBT, individuals, and
Absolutely.
maybe we didn't know it at the time. Like with our generation, maybe they had to be closeted because it was a don't ask, don't tell while I was in. But how did your experience differ from mine? From a lot of other people, and let's open up that conversation. For women in the service. The LGBT community, for what was it like to be Black, Mexican, Filipino, Asian,
Right.
or Filipino Asian, you know what I mean? My bad. But what were those experiences like, and how did they change how you identify within that cultural construct after this new veteran cultural construct.
Very nice. I like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a question we can't answer, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We need people to engage with us and offer their experiences and talk about their service.
I think another reason why I found this particular topic important is because I have run into positive and negative stereotypes while attending classes at the university, while interviewing and applying for jobs. I have experienced both of these. One of them being military people are angry people. Military people are conservative. Military people are warmongers. But military people also know how to execute. They know how to project. They know how to speak well in public. You kind of see what I mean?
Yeah. There's many positives and negatives. When I was applying for jobs after school, you know, depending on who I was applying to, I had to be very conscious of whether or not I disclosed my time in the military. That was really difficult because that would leave a huge 7-year gap of employment, you know.
Right.
But it was something I had to think about constantly. Do I want them to know? Is this an organization that's going to give two shits about my 10-point veteran preference, you know, hire thing? Like, if it was a commercial industry, then more than likely not. They're not bound by those laws, or at least they can navigate around them pretty well, you know, by saying somebody else was more qualified. What is it when I apply to a job that an employer says, yeah, you know, it might be more trouble than it's worth? I think that's a reason a lot of vets end up in public service once again, you know, professionally. Right. That's not to say that you know, business isn't like war, but maybe the people that are in charge of those businesses are afraid of the amount of ownership the vets are willing to take, you know? The ideas that they have and the attitude that they bring, it's a formidable thing. They should be concerned, to be fair. Because from what I've known, the people that I serve next to, I mean, they're the best leaders and the best equipped to do anything.
I agree. Yep. I feel that in general we are seen as definitely an asset, but sometimes we are definitely seen as a liability. And I know people, maybe just because I look crazy, but definitely have viewed me before as kind of a ticking time bomb. It seems they always seem to, you know what I'm saying?
Totally.
So,
but the thing that I want anyone that's listening to take away from that conversation and identifying that is that how can you use that to your advantage? How can you be the crazy veteran that's navigated, you know, a combat zone and or not or whatever? How can you own the stereotype and turn it around and use it to your advantage? I mean, that's what the military taught me in large part.
Right.
And I feel like I've done okay. And that's the question that I want to ask to anyone listening is, how can you use all of the negative forces that might be holding you back as a veteran? How can you use the tools that you've gained to turn it into something way better? How can you own this country? How can you own your community? You know, think about that. It's kung fu, man. This shit is chess, not checkers.
Right. I guess it makes sense. It does all come down to perspective, because similar to how I feel like the world looks at the United States, you know how like a lot of the world, especially the Western world other than the United States, kind of will shit on us a little bit. Shit on our politics, shit on our standards, our media, whatever, pop culture.
Right.
They'll shit on us a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say there's a really a huge natural disaster in a third world country or there's a large genocide in some state in Africa, they look towards America. America, what are you doing? How much money are you going to put into this to help us fix this? Yeah, I think that's very similar with veterans. Is if you look at, they kind of look at us as maybe unstable a little bit, but if you look at the amount of respect that veteran will get when they try to run for office, let's say.
Or there's a certain level of fear, and respect, and with a little fear comes a little respect.
I just feel
given that scenario, Nate. I mean, you're talking about the United States, a world power, capable of a lot of things. I think that's how America ought to view its veterans, in a certain, I guess more humble and individual way. Is that, yeah, there's misgivings and maybe there's a reason to sort of be a little afraid, but with fear comes respect, and I think veterans know that. You're a little afraid when you join. You're a little intimidated by this huge structure and all the proxies and media that you've come to think about it, and you join, and then you learn, most of the time I feel like, you learn something kind of different. It wasn't what you expected. It wasn't the hard thing that you thought it would be, yet doesn't make it easy, not to say it's easy, but you learn how to be strong, I guess.
No, I know it's adaptation. It's not really being strong, like being strong real, I don't think. I think it's the ability to adapt and to kind of take on any situation and capitalize on it.
Semper Gumby, man. Adaptable.
Right, Semper Gumby. We're back to that, huh?
Yeah. Always back to that. That was one of the greatest things I ever heard, was Semper Gumby. Stay flexible, stay adaptable. I don't know, man. I've gone off on some pretty wild tangents, and I certainly didn't intend to or mean to alienate anybody, but there is, I think, with some of the stereotypes, some of the challenges that veterans face, a lot of that is bred from fear, like a cultural fear of what this group of people is capable of, what they've done. Well, what I would pose to the civilian body is just they volunteered, they did what was asked of them, and a lot of times it was hard. Maybe there should be some fear, but with fear comes respect, and hopefully trust, because they did dedicate themselves to you, as a member of the cultural body.
Real quick, I would like to thank Silver Magic 7 for watching tonight's broadcast and involving himself. He had an interesting post that he posted publicly, so I don't feel particularly uncomfortable talking about it. So Silver Magic 7 stated on our Google Plus page, he said, "I think at some level, regardless of an individual's background in the military, those who have served have a basic foundation of acting in a professional manner, which can be clearly divided between civies and us," and I'll agree with that. There's a certain professionalism that we have to adapt to that does drive the military efficiency, essentially.
And that goes back to the cultural question that you were bringing up about, sex and race and so on and so forth, that you don't know who your supervisor is going to be. And if you have a supervisor, you have to answer to them whatever their construct is. And hopefully, you're answering to somebody that challenges your own construct of what you are, given your race, gender, sexuality, religion, all of that. No, man, professionalism.
Professionalism, that's exactly it. More of our biggest assets. I'll say that for sure. I'll take that as I'll put that under a positive stereotype.
Yeah. Well, hopefully.
Right. Ooh. I'll disappoint a bit, but
I try not to go too much on my own personal experience. In personal experience, I found that being a veteran has kind of not held me back, but it didn't give me the opportunities I thought it would when I got out. But it was in that sort of kung fu ownership of sense of self that I was able to navigate and create something better after the fact. So, that's what I would want to offer, and I think you have too.
Absolutely. Alrighty, I think that's tonight's show. It's all the time we've got. We talked about some stereotypes, maybe some preconceptions that do exist and we have experienced. Maybe you found some relativity in this. We would love to hear your comments. Uncle Whit, you have any closing notes?
Closing notes, Semper Gumby.
Semper Gumby. Let's put that down as a inside a fortune cookie. Follow us on Facebook, please. On VetLine Radio, you can find us there on Google Plus as well. VetLine Radio. You can find us on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. Send us a nice tweet at @VetLineOfficial. One of our main goals in this show is to be completely audience-driven. We want our showers to drive the show for us so we can discuss issues that they bring up. We truly want this to be the gathering place for veteran culture.
Big thanks to some folks.
Absolutely. So get in touch with us on those social media sites. Tonight, we need to thank quite a few people. We have a GoFundMe account, a place where you can donate to VetLine Radio, to the cause essentially. And tonight, we want to thank a number of our contributors. First is going to be Arturo in San Diego. Thank you for a donation tonight. Robert in San Diego as well. We want to thank you for your donation. Chris in Oceanside, California. We want to thank you for your donation. Jason in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Thank you for supporting the show. Nick the Pirate in Newport. Thank you very much for your contribution in keeping us alive. Nikki?
San Juan.
Nicole, yeah, that's right. It's Nicole out of San Juan. My apologies. Nicole out of San Juan. Thank you so much for keeping us going the way you have. And Cole in Portland, thank you for your donation. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of our show. Thank you very much for your ears. Thank you for your hearts. Taps, taps. Lights out, America.